If you were born in the 1940s, the 1950s, or the 1960s, Social Security just changed rules that affect your benefits, your claiming options, your earnings limits, and in some cases your benefit amounts, effective this July. Not next year, this July. Changes that are already in effect right now that most people in those birth decade groups have not heard about clearly, have not had explained to them practically, and have not had time to adjust their financial plans to account for. The Social Security Administration announced these rule changes through regulatory updates and agency guidance that generated coverage in policy publications and specialty press, but that did not produce the kind of direct, clear communication to affected beneficiaries that changes of this significance require. Each birth decade is affected differently. The rules that apply to someone born in 1948 are not identical to the rules that apply to someone born in 1958 or someone born in 1964. The age you are today, your full retirement age under the rules that apply to your birth year, your current claiming status or your proximity to claiming, and your earnings situation all interact with the new July rules in ways that are specific to your birth cohort. Understanding which changes apply specifically to your situation, not just that changes happened, but precisely what changed for you, is the starting point for protecting your benefits and maximizing what you receive. Let me walk through each birth decade specifically, what the new rules mean for each group, what is changed in the earnings test, the full retirement age calculations, the survivor benefit rules, the delayed retirement credit application, and the new verification requirements that apply to each group differently. And then let me tell you the specific steps each group needs to take right now before these changes affect their next deposit. Start with people born in the 1940s. If you were born between 1940 and 1949, you are currently between 75 and 85 years old. You have almost certainly been receiving Social Security retirement benefits for years, possibly decades. The Social Security Administration has classified people in this birth cohort as what it internally designates as long-term beneficiaries, people who have been in the system long enough that their benefit calculations incorporate multiple adjustment layers that accumulate complexity over time. The new July rules affecting this group fall into three specific categories. The first category is the survivor benefit recalculation rule for this cohort. Widows and widowers born in the 1940s who are currently receiving survivor benefits, benefits based on a deceased spouse's earnings record, are subject to a new recalculation provision that examines whether the survivor benefit was correctly calculated at the time of initial award using the current benefit calculation methodology versus the methodology in effect at the time the benefit was first claimed. The Social Security Administration has acknowledged, through a series of Inspector General audit reports over the past several years, that widows and widowers in this age range were systematically underpaid when their survivor benefits were calculated using a methodology that did not properly account for their own retirement benefit entitlement in conjunction with their survivor benefit entitlement. The new July rule requires the SSA to complete a review of survivor benefit calculations for beneficiaries born between 1940 and 1949 and to issue corrected benefit amounts retroactively where underpayments are identified. If you are a widow or widower born in the 1940s and you are currently receiving survivor benefits, you should receive a notice from the Social Security Administration as part of this review. But the notice process is not instantaneous. It is being conducted case by case across a large population of beneficiaries. If you have not received a notice and you believe your survivor benefit calculation may have been affected by the issues the Inspector General identified, specifically, if you reached your own retirement benefit eligibility while receiving survivor benefits, and the interaction of those two benefits was not clearly explained or optimized when you filed, you should contact the SSA proactively rather than waiting for a notice to arrive. The SSA phone number is 1-800-772-1213. Your local Social Security office location is searchable at ssa.gov. Contact them and ask specifically whether your survivor benefit calculation is under review under the July rule changes for your birth cohort. The second category for the 1940s cohort is the enhanced documentation verification requirement. Beginning in July, the SSA is implementing enhanced identity and benefit verification procedures for beneficiaries who have been in the system for 20 or more years. The enhanced verification is being rolled out in phases by birth year, with 1940s birth cohort members among the first to be contacted. The verification process asks beneficiaries to confirm their current address, their banking information for direct deposit, and their identity through the My Social Security online portal or through an in-person verification appointment at a local SSA office for beneficiaries who cannot complete the online process. Beneficiaries who do not complete the verification within the required time period, typically 60 days from the notice date, may have their benefit payments temporarily suspended pending completion of verification. If you received a letter from the Social Security Administration requesting enhanced verification and you have not yet responded, respond immediately. Do not assume the letter is a scam. The SSA is conducting legitimate outreach to long-term beneficiaries as part of the new July verification requirements. If you are uncertain whether a letter you received is genuine, call the SSA directly at 1-800-772-1213 to verify that the request is legitimate before providing any information. Do not provide personal information in response to a phone call you did not initiate or an email. The SSA communicates by mail and through the My Social Security portal, not by unsolicited phone call or email. But if you received a letter by mail and have not responded, respond through the legitimate channel the letter identifies, either the online portal or the SSA phone line or an in-person appointment. The third category for the 1940s cohort is the Medicare Coordination Update. Beneficiaries in this age range who are enrolled in both Medicare and a retiree health insurance plan from a former employer are subject to a new coordination of benefits rule that changes how Medicare and the retiree plan interact for certain categories of services. The practical effect in most cases is minimal because Medicare as primary payer and the retiree plan as secondary payer continue to function as before. But for beneficiaries whose retiree plan has specific provisions that interact with the Medicare coordination rule in ways the plan's administrator needs to update, there may be a temporary period of claim processing adjustment as the plans implement the new coordination rules. If you experience claim processing delays or unexpected cost-sharing amounts for Medicare-covered services beginning in July, contact your retiree plan's member services to ask whether the July Coordination of Benefits update is affecting processing of your claims. Now, for people born in the 1950s, if you were born between 1950 and 1959, you are currently between 65 and 75 years old. This cohort spans the range from people who are newly on Medicare and recently claimed Social Security to people who have been receiving benefits for a decade. The diversity within this cohort means that the new July rules affect people in very different situations, and identifying which specific rule change applies to you requires knowing your current benefit status. For people born in the 1950s who are already receiving Social Security retirement benefits, the most significant July rule change involves the earnings test recalibration. The Social Security retirement earnings test applies to beneficiaries who have claimed retirement benefits before their full retirement age and who continue to work. For every $2 you earn above the annual earnings limit, which in the current year is $22,320, Social Security withholds $1 of benefits. Once you reach your full retirement age, the earnings test no longer applies, and your withheld benefits are restored through a recalculation of your benefit amount. The new July rule recalibrates how the SSA tracks and applies earnings test withholdings for people in the 1950s birth cohort who have been subject to the earnings test in prior years. Specifically, it addresses a processing inconsistency in how withheld benefit amounts were credited back to beneficiaries when they reached full retirement age. The SSA's own review found that a portion of beneficiaries in this cohort who had benefits withheld under the earnings test in years prior to full retirement age did not receive the complete benefit recalculation at full retirement age that they were entitled to. The July rule requires the SSA to conduct a systematic review of benefit recalculations for 1950s cohort members who transition from pre-FRA claiming with earnings withholding to post-FRA full benefit receipt, and to correct any underpayments identified. If you were born in the 1950s and you claimed Social Security before your full retirement age while continuing to work, your benefit should have been recalculated upward when you reached your full retirement age to account for the months when benefits were withheld under the earnings test. If that recalculation did not occur, or if it occurred but the amount was incorrect, your current benefit may be lower than it should be. You can check whether your benefit was recalculated by requesting your complete benefit history from the SSA, a detailed statement of your benefit amounts by year that shows the recalculation adjustment. If no recalculation adjustment appears in your benefit history at or after your full retirement age, despite a period of pre-FRA earnings withholding, you have grounds to request a review of your benefit calculation under the new July rule. For people born in the 1950s who have not yet claimed Social Security, people who are still working or who have delayed claiming, the July rules introduce a new informational requirement. The SSA is now required to provide a personalized benefit statement to unclaimed beneficiaries in this cohort that specifically quantifies the value of delayed claiming in dollar terms based on their individual earnings record. The statement shows you the specific monthly benefit amount you would receive if you claim now versus the specific amount you would receive if you delay claiming to age 67, 68, 69, or 70. The statement is being generated automatically for unclaimed 1950s cohort beneficiaries and will be available in your My Social Security account at ssa.gov. If you were born in the 1950s and have not yet claimed benefits, log into your My Social Security account and look specifically for the new Delayed Claiming Value statement. The dollar amounts shown are calculated using your actual earnings record. They are not generic estimates. They show specifically what waiting an additional year, 2 years, or until age 70 is worth in monthly benefit terms for your particular situation. For many people in this cohort, the additional monthly benefit from delaying claiming by 1 to 3 years exceeds $100 to several $100s per month for life. The statement makes this comparison visible in a way that the prior SSA informational materials did not. Use it to make your claiming decision with complete information. For people born in the 1960s, between 1960 and 1969, currently between 55 and 65 years old, the July rules are most consequential in 2 specific areas. The first is full retirement age confirmation, and the second is the new pre-claiming optimization requirement. People born in 1960 or later have a full retirement age of 67, not 65, not 66, 67. The full retirement age of 67 applies to everyone born in 1960 or after, and the July rules clarify several aspects of how this applies to people in the 1960s cohort who are approaching eligibility. The early claiming reduction for people who claim at 62, the earliest possible claiming age, is 30% for people with a full retirement age of 67. That is a significant reduction that is permanent. The benefit you receive at 62 is 30% less than the benefit you would have received at 67, and that 30% reduction applies to every benefit payment for the rest of your life. It does not catch up. It does not close over time. It is permanent. The July rules for the 1960s cohort introduce a new requirement that the SSA provide a mandatory benefits counseling session, either online or by phone, before processing a benefits claim from any person born in 1960 or later who is claiming before age 65. The counseling session is not a denial of your right to claim early. You retain the full legal right to claim at 62 if you choose to. The counseling session is a disclosure requirement, a requirement that the SSA ensure you have received and understood specific information about the permanent reduction before your claim is processed. The information covered in the mandatory counseling session includes the specific dollar amount of your permanent reduction, the break-even age at which delayed claiming produces a higher lifetime benefit, the impact of early claiming on survivor benefits your spouse would receive from your record, and the interaction of early claiming with the earnings test if you continue to work. If you were born in the 1960s and you are planning to file for Social Security benefits within the next year or two, be aware that the mandatory counseling requirement will be part of your application process. This is not a bureaucratic obstacle. It is an opportunity to receive specific, personalized information about your claiming decision before you make it. Take the counseling session seriously. Ask questions. Request that the SSA provide you with the specific numbers for your situation in writing before you finalize your claiming decision. The second significant July rule change for the 1960s cohort is the new Social Security Statement Update requirement. The SSA has always provided estimated benefit statements to people who have not yet claimed. The July rule updates the format and frequency of these statements for the 1960s cohort specifically, requiring more frequent updates, more detailed projections, and a new section that shows the impact of continued work on your estimated benefit. The new statement format specifically shows you how your benefit estimate changes if you continue working at your current earnings level through ages 62, 65, 67, and 70, giving you a concrete picture of how additional years of work and additional years of payroll tax contributions affect your eventual monthly benefit. These updated statements are being generated for the 1960s cohort and are available in your My Social Security online account. If you have not created a My Social Security account, go to ssa.gov and create one today. The account is free. The statement is available immediately upon account creation, and the information in that statement, the projected benefit amounts under different claiming age and continued work scenarios, is the specific information you need to make the most financially significant decision most people in their late 50s and early 60s will make about their retirement income. 3 things to do right now, regardless of which birth decade you are in. Log into your My Social Security account at ssa.gov and check for any new notices, updated statements, or verification requests that have been posted to your account as part of the July rule implementation. The SSA is communicating with affected beneficiaries primarily through this portal and through mail. Checking your portal now tells you whether there is anything in your account that requires your response. If you are a widow or widower born in any of the 3 decades and you are receiving survivor benefits, call the SSA at 1-800-772-1213 and ask specifically whether your survivor benefit calculation is under review as part of the July 2025 rule changes. This single phone call could identify an underpayment that represents significant retroactive back payment and a corrected going-forward monthly amount. If you were born in the 1960s and have not yet claimed benefits, log into your My Social Security account and find your updated estimated benefit statement. Review the projected amounts under different claiming scenarios before you make any claiming decision. The dollar differences between claiming at 62 versus 67 versus 70 are significant and permanent. See them in your own numbers before you decide. The rules changed in July. The changes are specific to birth cohort. The amounts at stake are significant. And the people who check their accounts, respond to notices, and use the new tools the SSA is making available will receive the benefits they are entitled to. The people who do not will continue on autopilot, receiving whatever amount the system produces without verifying it is correct and without claiming the adjustments the new rules make available. The new rules are effective now. Check your account today.